Hello! So you can see I have changed out of my shop clothes, and that is because for this next part we are not doing anything even remotely scary. We are just going to take the Prostate transfers out of the freezer after you've frozen them multiple times. You want to do 2 or 3. And while they are still frozen, you want to take them, and because your silicone will not be frozen, it'll still be flexible, it'll make it much easier to release from the mold. And then you just pop it in your dehydrator and you've done the work. You've made your prosthetic. And now if you have your transfer paper, you are ready to apply and paint it. For this next step, you will need baby powder and a makeup brush. And these are still nice and frozen. So let's just begin to demold here. It's a little bit tricky. You want to be really careful about your edges. But actually, this looks great. On to the next one. Careful, it's lifting a little bit here. There, easy peasy. And you see all the excess around. It's a good thing we made those runoffs. But what some people like to do, and this is not absolutely necessary, is get a little bit of baby powder and just lightly kind of buff it on. And usually you can't really do it at this stage, but because it's frozen still, easy as pie. So here we have that one, and now I realized that I made the edges a little bit too thin on my first application, so I went back and I added a little bit of Prostate material because it's much harder to get out of the mold if you don't have anything around here. And you can see I put such a thin layer that it's dried clear. So this is still frozen. Let's see how we do. Yeah, see, that's phenomenally better. And at this stage, you can, well, first you want to get out your baby powder and just lightly kind of buff it on. This makes the appliance a little bit less sticky, and there were some air bubbles in the mold, so I'm just going to get like a little tool. So I've got here a tiny pair of sharp tweezers. I'm just going to pinch out some air bubbles that happened. Carefully. The way you prevent air bubbles, you can actually brush on a layer of silicone to your piece before you pour the rest of it. It will ruin a brush, but it's obviously, I mean, it's probably worth doing. Alright, so After this, you can just leave it out to dry for, a couple days maybe, or you can pop it in the dehydrator and wait a couple hours. So the dehydrator is not absolutely necessary, but it's pretty handy to have. So here we have my dehydrator. You can see the piece is in, and if you look, you can see the other piece is underneath. Now I'll just wait a couple hours and it'll be ready to go. So these pieces have been in the dehydrator for overnight. So the next thing that you do is you just want to carefully peel away the flashing. You definitely want to put your finger down to prevent any tears in your piece. And if you put the baby powder on, this process should be really easy because it won't be very sticky.
The next thing I'm going to do is put the smaller prosthetics on a white background. Then take a flat, maybe angled brush and dip it in alcohol to dissolve the edges of the prosthetic a little bit. You really want to get it as close to the sculpted edge as possible without biting into the edge too much. And you're just going to do that all the way around. Alright, so once you have your edges nice and close, you're going to want to gently dab it off with a rag because alcohol activates the Prosaid and that will make it sticky again. So you want to make sure you remove the alcohol completely from the prosthetic. If you happen to be one of our Patreon subscribers, you can log in to patreon.com to see a special tutorial on pre-painting your prosthetics.
So, those are Prosaid transfers. Congratulations, you've done the work and now you are ready to apply them. Check out the link below to see how that's done.